You're listening to Beyond the Sermon, the podcast of First Methodist Church in Collingswood, New Jersey. On our podcast, the goal is not just to share the sermons we've preached, but to go beyond the sermon and talk about what we're learning and what God is doing in us and in our community. So, Jeremy, I got two questions to start off our conversation with.
Okay.
First one, what has been your worst Airbnb experience?
I can't say that on the air.
Okay.
Let me think of the second worst. The robbery one was the worst because we were literally like an hour or two outside of the city.
Yeah.
And trying to find something close to the venue and all of that. And we finally found a house that looked nice in the pictures that they sent us, that like they wouldn't charge us more for or whatever, that we could stay at. And we ended up just like eating at a restaurant and scootering around Atlanta to buy time while we're trying to like work this all out. We're like, okay, well, it's like 10 o'clock at night at that point.
Awesome.
So Airbnb's like calling owners for us to try and get us a spot. And I was like, okay, it looks clean inside. It looks nice. And we pull up and it's not the nicest neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
Bars on the convenience stores, random guy walking around with a bat that we named Batman. And we get to the house and there's like beer cans on the front stoop and broken glass and whatever. And inside looks great.
Yeah.
But
which is all people really look at when they're looking
in the
on
pictures.
Airbnb.
Yeah. So. And so we get in there and like it's one of those houses where like it was crumbling beforehand and then they slapped fresh paint and they slapped those like plastic wood looking flooring.
Yeah.
But they didn't fix what was underneath, so there were parts where we'd step and it would like bend underneath.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't I've been at worse, but that was definitely the whole situation was just a mess. And
awesome. Second question for you. Who'd you vote for in the last presidential election?
I was going to ask you that. Am I allowed to say on the air?
It's up to you.
I'll only answer if you answer.
I'll answer.
I'm not putting this on there. It's not going to...
It doesn't happen.
No, it's not going to be good for the body, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah. No, I really just wanted your reaction on that one.
No, I thought about it. If you came in here unprepared and wanted me to steer the ship, I was going to open with that. So I was going to do the same to you.
Yep. As I knew you would.
What do you really got for me, Scott?
All right. So here's the first question I came up with. You had in the bulletin, and Will read Ephesians 4, I think verses 17 to 32.
Yep.
Something like that.
And then never mentioned it again.
You preached from James 3, right? James chapter 3, is that what it was?
Yep.
Yeah, so what was going on there? Did it change after the bulletin got printed?
Yep.
Or yeah
A lot changed and shifted in the last like 72 hours leading up to, and I'd been like thinking about praying about this sermon for like a month. And so a lot of the pieces did not change necessarily. The scripture used and the main connecting point changed. So Ephesians, great. Even I think I texted Marie Wednesday night or Thursday morning, like, yeah, this is good. You can print it. And then later Thursday morning, I met up with a friend, and he was like, oh, why don't we read through James together? And I was like, you're an answer to prayer, and that's a testimony for another time. But so we read through all of James together, and I was like, oh, a lot of this, it's like saying what I feel like God wanted me to say just in scripture. And so it's like, okay, let me like make notes of these verses for later and see how and if which ones make it into the sermon, not thinking that it would become more of a focal point in there. And so praying and working through the sermon, get to Friday night, and I'm with my in-laws, and my brother-in-law's asked me about the sermon and prepping and all that. And at one point, he's like, oh, yeah, this reminds me of when the Israelites are in exile in Jeremiah 29 and that scripture. I was like, oh, yeah. Huh. And I get home that night, and I'm praying to God about certain aspects of the sermon and praying. just laying there in bed, and was like, yeah, I don't know how or where this fits. And then I thought of the Airbnb. I was like, that's temporary. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, and then it just like clicked and went down, like everything just started falling into place. And then due to other circumstances, I didn't have my normal 3-4 hours in the sanctuary Saturday night going through and tightening up and all of that kind of stuff. So, but like, yeah, still working at little things. And we get to Sunday morning and I was like, I could announce that there's a difference, but also like people also need to hear that Ephesians passage.
Yeah.
And maybe I should have been like, opening it up with, that's not what we're going to be using, but it's still, is important to consider as we're moving forward. So I feel like I should have maybe acknowledged it or something. But yeah, so that's why it didn't get mentioned literally at all afterwards. Because scriptures I ended up using and other things we touched on say in other words what the Ephesians passage says. Mm-hmm. So it's reinstating it. But yeah, and then one of the things, which I completely understand, so I was very much nervous. I guess nervous is, like, I just want to make sure I'm out of the way. Jeremy doesn't get inserted into this. It's God. And then as I was going through things, it was like, and not just that it's God and godly wisdom, but that like it's exactly what God wanted to share with his people, because we could have gone in a whole bunch of other directions and examples and that kind of stuff.
That's the tough part about a series like this, where you're just hitting certain topics for one Sunday. We could preach how many sermons on
each of these topics could be a series, could be a 4-week series.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm like, okay, God, even if I don't understand it, where we get, and he, in like the first 3 weeks of thinking about it, I was like, okay, I have like politics. Where does the deny yourself part in? Like, if that's the series, and then like God point out like the pride that everyone is guilty of, especially in regards to how we've been navigating politics. And so I already had that piece before all this. And anyway, so I get through the sermon and I'm very confident and comfortable that it's what God wanted for his people. And it was a blur. I blanked out in certain parts, and not in like a forgetful out. It just felt like it wasn't me. Like the Spirit was just running the show. But I was aware that part of my message got rearranged and flipped up compared to how I wrote it in my notes.
Oh,
and so,
which is always disconcerting.
Yeah,
when you go back to your notes.
So I didn't even go back. I knew it as soon as I walked off the stage, but it wasn't oh darn, I messed up, which would normally be my beat myself up thing. Yeah. Like I knew it's what God wanted, and if I had done it again, the part where I think I mentioned after I talked about Airbnbs and all the complaints and all that kind of stuff, I then mentioned like, okay, we're going to be back at the Airbnbs, pay attention because some of this isn't true or something to that effect. And then I mentioned the Michael story, the host that I got to walk with for a short season, walk alongside. And I was like, as soon as I read like the, see where the differences lie or what might not be true in my house, like that was supposed to be way earlier. Like that was supposed to start like after I intro my experiences, and then we get to passion and we get into the things we're complaining about. Okay, which complaints happened or issues happened or didn't really happen. That can be up to interpretation. And then going into like what things are a ridiculous issue to have while you're at an Airbnb for 3 days and you want them to fix it and it would cost them thousands of dollars, but you don't want to spend more money. That wasn't as clearly articulated as I would have preferred. And then you get to the issues that are like, oh yeah, these are serious. We're lacking in the bed and we're lacking in the breakfast section.
Sure.
I want them and I'm going to like push on them to supply those things. But even if they don't, I'm going to make sure that it happens and everyone's taken care of.
Right.
And then there's things that are just like, there's no point in even calling them. It's so ridiculous, far gone, or whatever. Some things are like not even worth bringing up or complaining about. And, you know, that dynamic of the people in charge of providing, but also we could provide, and then how do we... Anyway, so that all got rearranged compared to how I planned it and had it, I believe, in my notes. Mm-hmm. And then versus the execution. But yeah, so I definitely get how people could have been lost within that, following that train of thought. And also with the Ephesians not being used whatsoever. But that's the journey that I was on.
Yeah. No, I figured that was the case because it happens sometimes, right? You have one thing in your mind, and that's what you go to print on Thursday morning in the bulletin. Yeah. And then God says, no, actually, this.
Yeah. And even within the sermon, there's little phrases or add-ons, tidbits.
Sure.
That like normally I wouldn't feel comfortable branching from what I prepared to touch on, but really felt like God was leading me there. And even in the earlier stuff, someone had mentioned to me, like, you know, I really enjoyed like the hesitations and the tension in between things. And I was like, I wish that was intentional. Yeah. But like, I felt like God wanted me to, in the moment, wanted me to be open and vulnerable of what we're all kind of feeling / nervous about what's about to happen.
And I appreciated that there were some pauses within this, like you're saying, like some breath, some letting a thought just kind of hang there, because these are tough conversations to have.
That's why this was definitely more God than me, because I would have just blazed through. And there was times in the prep that I felt like God led me to intentionally pause, and it's like even written in my notes because I'm so bad at doing that.
Yeah.
And other times I was just so hesitant to say the next thing that God put on my heart. I think I already told you that on the phone before. But like as I was going through this process and I said all the things I had and filtering out what he didn't want for this Sunday, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that can be talked on the podcast. This can be talked about on the podcast. And then there was one line, some of us may be upset about a Pride Month in June, but we're celebrating it year round, or something to that effect. And I prayed at least 20 minutes. As soon as when God originally gave it to me, like 20 minutes, like, can this please be on the podcast?
Yeah.
And not said from the pulpit. And felt like he wanted it said from the pulpit. And I'd, like, in the moment had forgotten about it. So then as I get to that line, I'm like, oh, I really have to say this? God, can I just continue without this one? Just felt like that, nope. Go on, be faithful. Yeah. I'm like, okay, God.
But that gets to the core of so much of it, right? Because there's so much pride bound up in thinking we've got it figured out, or we know best, or that, you know, the party we support clearly is the more biblically faithful or Christian party, and we feel really good about ourselves in that way, and we tend to then insulate ourselves from other opinions to the point where we just reside within an echo chamber where that's all we're hearing, and it only increases those levels of pride within our lives.
And that's why I opened the altar afterwards, because I know of all the pride I have that I need to go and put before the Lord. And so it was so good. It was so good in the sense of like I'm receiving the sermon, and that it just felt so nice that it wasn't me. And like maybe to a degree that I haven't like felt before. Like there's always aspects and parts and pieces and whatever, and feel like I got the message that God was leading me to, but like so much not myself that I don't know. I just felt like afterwards I was like, and then when God said, I'm like, not in a pretentious, like, I am God, but like, I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have said a lot of things.
But, so you mentioned how you had asked him in the moment, can I take that out? Do I have to say? But there was one point where you said audibly, no, I'm going to save that for the podcast in the middle of your sermon.
Oh, yeah.
That's discernment. Like, discernment happening right there. What can you key us in on what you wanted to talk about there?
Yeah, at the time I was like, I know this, I can't connect it all and make it coherent, and I was like processing at the same time of, I'll reread the Isaiah 26:8. Yes, Lord, walking in the way of your laws, we wait for you. Your name and renown are the desire of our hearts. And it's like the conflict of seeking that and doing that amongst others who are not seeking to have that be the desires of their heart. Like, how do we navigate making personal and political decisions with walking in his ways and the desire of our hearts being his name and renowned at the core of it, while we're also having these, like, this dialogue with people inside the church or outside of the church, that is not their same posture.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a whole nother can of worms, God. That's a podcast thing that I can't slip in at this moment and keep going where we were going.
Yeah. So what do you think are some practical things that people can do to...
Monastic life.
Yeah, because I'm sure there was never any conflict or
between
tension.
the different monastic orders.
Or I was going to say between monks.
Yeah. That's why you just moved to the monastery. The ones that have less and less time together, those are the ones
where you have to take a vow of silence and nobody ever talks to anybody.
Yeah. I think that's the really hard part when you get into the nitty-gritty, especially within the church, of staying humble, pushing, like, encouraging, and what's the other one? It's like encouraging, but it hurts a little more.
Exhortation.
Exhorting our brothers and sisters in Christ,
which, for if people don't know what exhorting or exhortation means, it's been described before as when it's like somebody comes up, gives you a hug, and you're like, wow, that was really nice, and then you walk away and you're like, wait, they just hit me. Like, it's like this tender yet firm and somewhat painful correction.
Yeah. Trying to balance the meeting people where they are, being on the same team that says we have the same goals, and yet from our limited perspective, it seems like maybe we haven't seen the fruit in other people's actions that they are also seeking to have that be the desire of their heart.
That team and that goal being?
The church.
Team church.
Team church.
Lifting up Jesus.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's really hard. Big C church and local church to how do we not avoid the conversation completely? How do we healthily assume we are all on the same page while not ignoring when people aren't?
Yeah.
I think that's the tightrope that we have to balance, because it should be out of love, humble, but not ignorant to the fact that I think you're a little off the path and I want to gently guide you back onto the path.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that the path is, again, believe and agree with everything that I say.
Sure.
But when people are hateful and harmful to other people, or creating an other, or whatever it may be,
putting an agenda maybe ahead of Jesus,
then it's not Jesus, and we need to bring you back in. And it might not even be like that I disagree with you on the topic. Like, I can agree with you on an issue and disagree with how you talk about it, how you treat others that are differently on that topic, and all of those other things.
Or what we think the solution is.
What we think the solution is. And that's one of the things when I talked with our youth about politics a few months ago, of there's a difference between agreeing on an issue and agreeing on a solution. Because a lot of times the world says, well, Jesus says feed the hungry, so here's blown out of proportion example. Why wouldn't we give $5 trillion to buy Cheetos for every single person, and every single person can live off of Cheetos forever, and they won't starve.
Right.
We're like, well, I agree, we're called to help the people with their needs. Ridiculous amount of money. That might not be the healthiest thing for them, though it is feeding them. So it's not great for us, maybe not the best for them. And one of the things that didn't make it in the sermon that I thought was going to be a piece, and then anyway, is if you had it your way and you got to pick, basically you were in charge of every single seat in the political party, because let's be honest, that's what we desire. Would it be executed well on a federal, state, or local level, and at the price point that you would want with your taxes?
Yeah.
The answer is no. So even in our dream world of lining up the players, it's never going to pan out how we desire.
Yeah.
And that's where I was originally going to touch on, like, different, where you see the abuses of power or finances. And it's like, we don't have to get in a specific, like when I had the Airbnb revelation, it was like, we don't need to get into specific issues. You can see issues and how we navigate them and view them and all of that kind of stuff without. One of the ones I was going to bring up, because it's the most bipartisan thing I could come up with, is if we got everyone in power and blah, 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 all your dreams come true, we're still going to spend, even if it's $1, too much money on the turkey pardoning ceremony at Thanksgiving. And that's every single president, and George H.W. Bush put it into play, which Abraham Lincoln and I think maybe Eisenhower did it, but it wasn't a regular thing until George H.W. Bush. Why do we need to be spending money on White House interns to set up tables and chairs and paying politicians a day's work to go and do that with all the other things going on, to put a turkey on stage? And then personally, this is why it's not at the pulpit, personally is like, is this not a reflection of how government and media can be like, oh, look at this really nice good thing that we did, ignore the 43 million that are dying today because at least one got saved. Like, what kind of shenanigans is this? And so there was in my notes, it was like too much research on turkey pardoning, because I thought the important things of politics come up, but yeah, but it's one of those things, it's like so ridiculous, but we're so used to it.
Sure.
And like we ignore that, like, our money's going towards that, and is even guaranteed to survive the next Thanksgiving. I couldn't find any proof of that.
Right.
All we did was buy him some time. And it's a turkey.
It's a turkey.
Gobble, gobble. What a way to end the podcast. It's not needed, but the one thing that did get thrown out is, I mean, this is more political than theological, but we're already here, and this is the only episode I'm ever going to want to talk about politics. So, my cousin used to work for Congresswoman.
Okay.
And, like, very personally, not like multiple levels underneath, but would, like, travel with the Congresswoman, and she was a very beloved in the community. The community was one of those that, like, flipped between the two parties over and over and over again, so it's very mixed politically, but she's held her office for a very long time because both sides in her community love and respect her. And I believe this woman has good intentions with her job, even if, again, I don't agree with everything, but she seems like a good person with good intentions. And I get to hear all these behind the scenes stories where it's like, I want to go help our factory workers, like, do this and set up this new plant, but I need to go talk on this news channel, so I'm in DC instead of in the community, and then I have to get my hair and my makeup done, and someone picks out my clothes. It's like, I don't usually do my hair, I don't usually do my makeup, but it's part of this game and system that we've created, that if you want to try and make those good changes, you have to do all of these other things that take up a good chunk of your time. And so it's like, you can't think of anyone that's won a certain level of political power in our country without at least having to raise millions of dollars.
It's and that's part of the brokenness of our system, right? Is there's so much that you have to do to be a part of the system that just to be able to get done maybe a few of the things that are really on your heart to see change.
And a great example, Love is Blind. Do you watch Love is Blind?
I've never watched Love is Blind.
Do you know what Love is Blind is?
I know what Love is Blind is.
For those that don't know, perfect closer. Love is Blind is a show where they get like 30 singles of each gender from a city. The girls live in one section, boys live in another section, and they go into these, they call them pods, where they go on one-on-one dates, but they can't see each other. They can only hear each other.
Right.
And they essentially have 10 days of dating as many of these people in this single thing, and you can have multiple dates over those 10 days. And at the end of the 10 days, you can propose to the other person, and then they'll fly you out for a honeymoon in whatever resort, and then you live together for 30 days to see what quote-unquote real life looks like, and then you get to the aisle and you find out if they both say yes or no and see if love is truly blind.
Right.
All of that said, as people talk about those that are on the show, and I can't believe people are like that or this person's really good or that, and you start to see little crazy come out, right? You got to have drama, otherwise it's not worth the time. It's like, okay, but we also need to take a step back and realize the people on the show are already a small demographic of people that would sign up for a show like this. But it's so easy to be like, oh, we just plucked 30 singles of your common singles in the city to do this. We're like, maybe there's a reason they're single and desperate enough to go on a show like this when there's so many other ways to do it. And as we discussed last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever, it ain't easy out there for the young singles. So I get the desperation of finding a new way to do it. But you have to recognize that there's already a niche demographic that would even enter into the system in the process.
Yeah.
And then we're viewing those in that section.
Make the connection for us.
Played out. Oh, if it wasn't obvious, politicians, as we said, like those that are willing to, and again, fight the good fight, but then it also means play the game up to a certain degree, that's already a niche group. And it's not maybe necessarily the Mother Teresa's of the world. Mother Teresa ain't doing PR.
Right.
It ain't happening. She's serving. She's taking care of people. She's loving the Lord to the best of her ability. So, like, those types of people simply just don't get up there.
Yeah, like it would be even harder for God to get me into politics than it was for him to get me in the pulpit.
Ooh, challenge accepted. Local office?
Oh. No part of me. Oh, no part of me. No.
Oh, I don't think
I wouldn't play the game enough for people to even know who I was when they got to the ballot box.
Yeah. And then even just to have other, like, you're like, okay, maybe you're not good at representing yourself, but you have enough supporters and people that would like go and do the grassroots movement type thing for you. And it's like, why would I waste so many people's time?
Yeah.
When they can go use their gifts and their talents that God's given them to do better work, that it's not all revolved around moi.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Moral of the story. Deny yourselves. Stay out of politics. And follow Jesus.
And when he says stay out of politics, he means just don't be a politician, I'm pretty sure. Or you're just saying ignore the complete political... I'm not trying to... Oh, that also got removed. At some point I was going to be like, even as a kid, I knew how much people didn't like politicians because one of the first jokes I learned was politics. Poly meaning many and ticks meaning blood sucking insects or whatever. There's your ending.
Let me rephrase that. What was the first thing I said?
I don't know. You were standing. That was your closer. You should know your closer.
I got nothing. Never mind. Politics. There you go. Well, that's our conversation for today. But that doesn't mean the conversation is over. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these topics as well. To ask a question about anything we've discussed in this episode or to join the conversation, you can head over to fumccollingswood.org/podcast. Thanks for being part of this conversation.
Let something in the solitary practice of let God bring up the topic, kind of, in a sense.
Oh, yeah.
Like to figure out what's really on your heart, even if you aren't like hyper aware of it on your heart. And so I'm just sitting there and looking at these geese sitting on the ice while the fountain's going on and the lights and everything at night. And it's just like, okay, God, what's on my heart? And I was just getting very humbled that God would entrust me to raise a third child.
What?
Yeah.
Another one, huh?
Yeah. Or maybe Rebecca's pregnant.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you already know?
No.
Wow! Congratulations. Your boys can keep a secret for more than 12 hours.
There you go.
Another one in brewing.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Might not put it on the public one this week.
Yeah. How far along?
This will be 10 weeks coming up.
Yeah, so still early.
We got scans and it's safe, like everything's good. Mm-hmm. And this was like around when James passed.
Yeah.
So that was a little harder. Like good, but harder like seeing the x-rays because I was like, oh, I know what that looks like outside of the womb.
Yeah.
And missing my little Charmander of a dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's doing good. We're excited. I'm more excited. I was pushing for twins, even though, like, I was happy with 2. I was like, well, if we're already going to do it, if our whole life is going to be kids, might as well go all out. Rebecca was not a fan of that.
Yeah, you didn't run that one by Joy and Andrew, did you?
Yeah, I know. I was like, Andrew, you're cheating at the game. How is it that it took me this long to become a father of 2, and then bam, you go from not a father to a father of 2. It's not fair. Anyway, so yeah, we'll see. So September 30th,